As entrepreneurs, that takes a totally different attitude than if you were employed, because you have to not only have faith in yourself, but the willingness to step out and the willingness to accept no when sometimes all you see is darkness, and to be able to say, I know there's light, and if I move forward and what I'm doing with my vision, it's going to be amazing.
Welcome to Leaf Notes, the podcast that helps your business take root and grow. I'm Adria Marshall, seasoned business owner and speaker.
And I'm Sydney Mafuka, artist, illustrator, and small business owner.
Join us each week as we take you on a journey through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We'll dive into everything from social media strategy to protecting your business.
We'll even answer your burning questions such as, do I need a business plan? Should I form an LLC? Where should I promote my business? And so much more.
Together with our guests, we'll break down these topics into actionable steps, helping you build the business of your dreams.
So whether you're just starting or you're looking to scale, we got you covered.
So go grab your notebooks, your favorite beverage, and cozy up to receive practical insights and inspiration here on Leaf Notes. Let's go make your business dreams a reality. It is my privilege to be here with HBCU graduate, community advocate, breast cancer survivor, mayor of Clarkston, entrepreneur, and my friend, Beverly Burks.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am excited to have you here, Miss Beverly. I've known you for it's been about a year now. It's been a year now, and we met, was it before COVID that we met, or was it?
During COVID.
It was during COVID we met, and you dropped by my shop, right, in the city of Clarkston. We had just moved in, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
And you told me then that you were interested in starting a skincare brand.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me and our viewers a little bit about the skincare brand that you started and why you started it?
Okay. Well, thank you first for having me here. I really enjoy this. So in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I actually found the breast cancer. And so what happened is I was going through a chemo treatment. It made me create these types of formulas for body oils and body butters because of the harshness of my chemotherapy. And so as a result of it, I would do things like my cancer ministry that I did for people who were going through the journey as well as like I was. And in fact, Thursday will be my third year as a survivor.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Congratulations. So I want to back up because you're just dropping nuggets right there, but there's so many little things. So when you were going through chemo, were you having issues with the products that you were using that would made you want to mix your own products?
It was a combination of things. So as I said, that September, Labor Day weekend, that's when I found out, 2019, that I found my lump. And so as a result of that, I was going into the winter season, all those different things. Your body already is changing because of the weather itself. And then on top of it, the chemo treatments that I was taking as well. So that put an extra level of complexity with my skin and the treatment. And so it was kind of like I wanted to find things that were natural. I was trying to be mindful because, as you're going through all of that and the chemicals that you're putting into your body, I didn't want to add to what I was putting on outside my largest organ.
Got it.
And so, so that's kind of what made me create kind of those formulas. And so as part of it, like I said, I did my cancer ministry. And so I would help, at first I would go and help women who were also breast cancer patients.
This is why you had cancer.
This was while I had cancer. This is while I was going through my treatment.
Wow.
Then after that, it was really more so that part was after I finished everything with breast cancer.
Okay.
And so, so I would take many of the women, like our refugee women, who had translation issues and everything else like that. So I could help them through that part of the journey.
Right.
But there were other people who had different types of cancer, like lung cancer. Someone I knew had throat cancer. And so that was my gift to them. that I started doing and giving it to them.
And that's amazing. And I think that's a really important part. We talked about this before. So you're the mayor of Clarkston, and then Clarkston, there's a large refugee community there. So you were assisting a lot of these women in the community as they were going through breast cancer with the translation, because it's, go ahead.
It wasn't so much like their actual language translation. It was more so the medical translation because and jargon.
Yeah.
Because as you know, it's very difficult for
us to understand.
Yep. So imagine someone coming here who has no understanding of insurance, no understanding of our contractual information, and we have to fill out every time we go and see a physician to go through that. And on top of it,
dealing with the stress of cancer,
and not knowing what your legal rights are.
Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine?
I see that all the time. And so it was interesting because how I started, I was helping one woman out with something totally different. And we started talking about her cancer experience. And I was like, well, why didn't your doctor tell you this? And she was like, I don't know.
Wow.
So that's one thing. And so I started the whole thing with the cancer ministry. And so then a couple of my friends were like, why don't you sell it? And I was like, oh, I don't have time for that. Right. And then, I give more. And they were like, well, why don't you sell it? And I was like, oh, I don't have time for it. And then one of my friends was like, no, you're doing it. I said, okay, I'm doing it. Right. And so I kind of struggled from a perspective of I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted everything to be, this had to be this certain color, it had to be this, it had to be that.
Yeah. And that's when I found you, what you were going through.
Right. And that's when we got involved because, I was like, no, it has to have this. And I have to have this. And I have to go to Italy to get this. And I got to do this.
Oh, I remember Italy. I remember getting the jars from Italy.
And the broken glass and everything. And so, you helped me with that and reminded me that, don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Absolutely.
And so it took me about almost a year from the time that I incorporated and everything. But meanwhile, when that happened, my mother passed away from COVID last January.
Okay.
And so as I'm going through all of this and I was thinking, how can I remember her and give honor to her and do things for her, I named my company NEMA.
Now, I didn't realize, and I've known you, and I'm still learning every time that we talk. So I assume that your mother had passed away quite a while ago. I didn't realize you'd already started the brand or started the formulas while she was living.
Right.
And then she passed away, and that's when you came up with the name.
Yes. Because I had different names I was trying to use. And then once she passed away and, I was trying to think of a name and my daughter was, saying, you should do something this way. You should do something that way. And then that's when I was thinking about how can I name it after my mom? Right. That would be, I was like, how can I give her, honor and do things for her? Right. And so that's when I came up with NEMA, which is Swahili for grace and abundance. And so her name was Grace Harris.
That's
and
amazing.
So, and so I tried to make sure that I'm doing things in her honor, like walking through a path of grace. So like many of the things that she had, I donated some, like she loved to sew. So I ended up, when she passed away, I didn't realize how many bags of stuff she had, right? So I ended up giving Amani, Women's Center, right? I ended up giving her 12 bags, shopping bags of my mother's fabrics and notions, because I wanted her memory to continue on in those things that were good for her.
That's a beautiful memory. Let me ask you this. So as I know, being an entrepreneur has its ups and downs, and we're going to talk more about that. There are a lot of things within EcoSlave's origin story that help keep me grounded and help me remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. Do you sometimes think about your mom and how she would feel about your brand when you're going through things?
I do. And it's a funny experience because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's that I don't know why you do this. You put yourself in this attitude as many of our mothers do.
Right.
But I also think about how she has always been proud of my accomplishments and proud of me willing to step out.
Right.
And so as entrepreneurs, that takes a totally different attitude than if you were employed, because you have to not only have faith in yourself, but the willingness to step out.
Right.
And the willingness to accept no when sometimes all you see is darkness. And to be able to say, I know there's light. And if I move forward and what I'm doing with my vision, it's going to be amazing.
That's amazing, because I was going to ask you, through the ups and downs, what keeps you going? Are there any things like specifically that you do to keep you going? Like we were talking earlier about you had a good day this weekend, right? You had a great day of sales, and that gives you wind, in your wings, it moves a little forward, right? But when things aren't going so well, what do you find yourself doing to keep yourself motivated?
That I try to remind myself that's just a moment. And that if I sit in that, then that's all I have. But if I say it didn't work out, or maybe I need to change something that I'm doing, if I continuously allow myself to sulk in what didn't happen, I don't allow what could happen to happen.
That's exactly right. For me, I think that's why I journal, because I can go back and look at some really, really difficult times. And then I can be thankful to say that no matter what I'm going through or what I've gone through the past 2 years hasn't been as bad as what I went through when I was first starting out, right? So at least I can say, well, it wasn't as bad as that still, right? And that and God, or whatever faith you may have, pulled you out of that. And so he's faithful enough to pull you out of what you're going through now.
Exactly. And I guess for me, one of my biggest things is people, if someone says I can't, right? Because it's almost like I'm gonna prove you wrong, right? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure it out. And sometimes it's just a matter of those obstacles seemingly to say you can't get this done.
Let's talk more about that, because I remember you telling me a story about someone said that you can't do something. I think it was when mayor. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I've been through. So as I said, I was on city council.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I didn't really want to be in politics. That's never been my forte.
So hold on, let's back up once again. So how did you end up on city council?
So I have a very interesting life, right? One of the things that happened was I was my grandmother's caregiver, right? And she passed away. And so, but as I was her caregiver living in Clarkston, I pretty much was pack my bags, go to my next consulting gig, and keep it moving, keep it moving. I was like right by the airport, you know, it was, we're not that far off 285, going in and just go. So my grandmother, I had her to come and live with me. And, you know, I always say I loved her to life, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't really think that she was going to live that long. She ended up living for 5 years with me.
Okay.
So when she passed away, you know, before she passed away, I had to learn the city, because one time the power went out and she was bedridden and had a peg tube. So I had to know what was going on in the city. And so that made me kind of look more at my community.
Got it.
And so then I was like, oh, I love this little city. I really do. And so then I got on planning and zoning after she passed away, just to kind of do something, right? And so they said, well, why don't you run for city council? I was like, I don't want to run for city council. I don't do that. And so then when the next election cycle came about, they said, well, if you don't run Beverly, there won't be any women on council.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
We can't have that.
We cannot have that at all. So I ran. And then I decided to run for mayor the first time, right? 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't win. And sometimes those are those unanswered prayers,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know how well I would have been able to do that and deal with my breast cancer
At the same time.
at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so when the former mayor, decided to run for another seat, for a commissioner seat, and his seat became open, and in the midst of me still doing my
Yeah, you still
cancer,
had
I
cancer
still
treatment.
had my cancer
Mhm.
treatments, but it was different because it was kind of like towards
Towards the
the
end.
end of it. I had,
You kind of figured out the ropes a
right,
little bit.
right,
Mhm.
right, and so my hair started growing back,
Yeah, right.
so then I decided to run. And so, October 26th, that was like my last, I rang the bell,
Mm-hmm.
and then I won the election in November. And then I got sworn in on my birthday, November
Amazing.
3rd.
What a
Yes.
gift.
And so that was my gift to saying that I'm about and want to love my community.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is great.
That's amazing. And you've always had this built-in love for your community. We talked a little bit about this before. I think it was instilled by your parents, right?
It was instilled by everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, had that sense of community,
Mm-hmm.
right? So me being involved and energized and doing things and advocating for the community is something that I have done all my life, all my life.
And what I think, to fast forward a little bit to your launch party, which I was so thrilled to be a part of, what really struck me as being so beautiful was how your community showed up for you.
Right.
Right. And I thought that was really important because you had been there for your community for so long. To see them, all of them crowded into that little place to support you was a big deal.
Right. And really, that was my smaller community, because I didn't even have my sorority sisters and things there, right there. So I was grateful to be able to have my community to reciprocate and give me that. And so the interesting thing was, like a week and a half before that, that's when I had my accident.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so they were telling me, maybe you should do it.
That's right. I remember that.
And I was like, nope.
Somebody tells you no, you say
Nope.
yes.
Nope. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right. That is so amazing. So we talked about your faith. We talked about your perseverance, especially when people tell you no. What is the best advice that you've been given since you've decided to start this brand?
Well, I have to tell you, thank you for everything. I have to say that you have been amazing. You have been the guiding post that I needed to move forward.
Thank you.
So I will have to say, in terms of journaling, what I need to do, and being realistic, because for me, unlike maybe some other people who may be entrepreneurs or trying to do that transition from maybe you doing your regular job to converting to an entrepreneur, I am a little complex.
Yeah.
So my positions and being mayor, because even though I'm mayor, I still have a day job. Right. And so it's making sure that I balance and juggle all of those, and understanding that some days may not work out the way that I planned, but that doesn't preclude me from the responsibilities that I need to do to grow the brand.
Right. So how do you balance that? Because you work out a lot of days. You are the mayor, but you have your day job and you're an entrepreneur. And I'm sure there's some other things I don't even know about. So how do you go about balancing all of those? I know it's trial and error, because we talked about that as well.
Right.
But how do you attempt to go about balancing all of those?
Well, usually what I try to do now, more so than ever, is to look at my journal and look at my day planner.
Right.
And to see, okay, well, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. And when things don't work that way, then I just say, okay, that goes to the next day.
Right.
Or it goes to the next couple of days.
Right.
To make sure that I don't lose sight of my responsibility.
Got it. So that's what you meant by that. And I think that's really important. I've coached quite a few people, and I've seen quite a few people get really discouraged when well, first of all, let me say that I've seen quite a few people be very overly ambitious with their tasks, right? So they're going to do everything on Monday.
I will admit it. She talking about me. Me.
Today, like we meet on Friday, and you're gonna get all the tasks done by Sunday, all of them. But one thing I have seen in others is that when they don't, then they lose that momentum, they lose their steam, they get discouraged, and that's one thing that's different about you. So you keep moving in spite of that, and you fooled me so well for a little while too, because we would get to our next meeting, you would be like, okay, I'm about to do this, and this. And it took me a while to realize, well, those were our goals for 2 weeks ago, right? But at least you kept moving.
Yeah. And so, and thank you for holding me to task.
You're welcome.
From a coach perspective, you are amazing.
Thank you.
And you make sure in terms of me being realistic with me not following through and getting on me about that. And that's very important, because I think, if within our relationship, the fact that you hold me more accountable to what I'm supposed to do and being realistic on what I can do.
Right.
Those are all very important things when, we have our relationship in terms of the expected outcome.
Right. And I do think that it's easy to find a coach that will just tell you what you want to hear, but that isn't going to help you grow. Right. And that's what it is all about at the end of the day.
Right. And so the truth is, to your point, is that I needed to hear those kind of kick in the pants type things to say, you're not really doing all the stuff you said you're going to do. Let me stop.
You almost had me.
I did. I was doing it.
You were shucking the job,
and I was moving this, and I get it done almost.
That's why I had to say, flip at the planner.
Flip at the planner. She was like, oh, she caught me. She caught me. But I needed that, because the other thing was I was unrealistic in everything that I was needing to do, with this extra piece that I was adding with me being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so I think when you're looking from the perspective of you being an entrepreneur, and you're looking at, I'm not ready to do it 100%, whether it's I'm financially not able to just devote all my money and time into growing my business, and I have to do it where I make it as a transition. You have to be honest with yourself, with your personal life, whatever your business is, and then what other things that you may have going on. What time do you have to devote to your business?
Right.
And what does that time mean in terms of the growth and development of your business? Because while you may say, I want to have $500,000 business, but if you don't devote the time or have the time or resources to do those things to get it to that point, then it's going to be delayed.
Right. Exactly. And so to fill you guys in, what I did for Miss Beverly was, we did something called block planning, which is where you look at your calendar and you define all your, and someone like Beverly, you define all the calendars with all the hidden events. Okay. All of them, like on your phone, little pieces of paper, wherever it is, and what's in her head,
right? And
get them all out on the calendar. And then you take all your to-do list and you put hours beside those. So you only have, so this is going to take 2 hours to do. So you can't fool yourself into thinking that you can fit it in.
Right. And I will say, because we would talk, and I would say, oh yeah, I can rush to do this and that, and then when we sat down and did that calendar that way, I was kind of shocked, and you were even kind of shocked to say, oh, now I see why you can't.
Right, it makes sense, because I was thinking, I know she's not lazy.
Right.
That's not it. And look at all the things that she's done So there has to be another reason. What things do I know? What secrets is she keeping from me and herself?
Right.
Right.
And I was, because I wasn't true to myself
Mm-hmm.
to be able to say that I got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it, how much time can I, and how much time can I devote to the business? What are those times and what can I do in terms of doing those activities in the business? And how can I balance that
Right.
with everything else going on?
And I think the benefit of doing it this way is that I don't want to talk for you, but it keeps you from being as stressed out and feeling that you're always behind too when your goals are realistic goals.
Right, right. And I think when you're starting out, you may have all these wonderful desires of, oh, it's going to happen like this. And for most people who are starting out, who are entrepreneurs, that's not the case.
Okay, so with all that being said, all the ups and downs, all the lessons learned, people often ask me when I tell them about the challenges of EcoSlay, is there anything that I would do differently? And not to persuade you, but I always say no, because I feel like all the challenges that I went through were necessary to get me to where I am now. So although there's some mistakes I wish I would not have made, I can see the benefit in those mistakes. So with all that being said, but still with that, there are things that I would do differently if I had the opportunity. So with all that being said, looking back on the past couple of years that you've been working on this brand, is there anything that you would do differently?
What I would do is not be my worst enemy in terms of moving forward. Making sure in terms of that whole total perfection attitude that, often prohibits me from just doing things, right? And so I've kind of changed that mentality, which has kind of helped me to open up other opportunities and possibilities, and to understand that if I don't take those necessary risks, I'm not going to see the growth that I need. And so it's really important to understand that you're going to have obstacles and hurdles and other things that may make you question, why did you do this? But then on the flip side, when you see revenue coming in, right, and you see people loving your product or service, then that reminds you of why you did it.
It's all about the why, right?
Right. It is all about the why. And so for me, the why is I'm looking forward to being that entrepreneur. I'm looking forward to when somebody puts on my body oil or my butters or my sugar scrubs. They're like, oh, this feels amazing. And so it's that, in terms of how can I make a quality product that people can love. That's so important for me. So changing something, I'm benefiting from all the lessons. I like you said, I wouldn't necessarily change what I've done. I would probably enhance it more. I would, for me, not get so caught up in the packaging. So that's one of those things for me.
Yes, I remember Italy.
Oh, Italy. Right. So I got caught up, oh, I wanted these bottles and all this other stuff. And then even within our conversations, thinking about quality control and how to make sure in terms of if we're doing things that are going to be in the shower or other places to ensure safety of
you
products.
wanted glass bottles at first. I remember that.
Yeah. So, this has been an evolution of the product journey.
Right.
And so it is the willingness to say, no, that's not going to work out. Let's figure out what makes sense. And it goes back to making a quality, reliable product or service. And so in doing so, sometimes you have to say, that was a great idea on paper. Right? That was a great concept. But reality is that risk management? Is it risk averse? Is it going to cause you to have issues with down the road with your product? So all of those things, are important. So to your point, I wouldn't change me doing this because I had to take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing for me and probably for you
Yeah.
to take that leap of faith when, you may have had people to say, no, is that really a good idea for you to do that? Right. Or you got all this stuff going on. How are you going to find time to do it? Where are you going to find time to do it?
Yeah.
And the other great thing for me is to be more inclusive of my village. Right,
From back to the community,
from my community, from my friends, because I didn't necessarily want to get a lot of people involved at first, because it's like, okay, now what is Beverly doing? Right? It's like, here she go. Wasn't good enough she was mayor. Now she wants to be a business person on top of all of this that she has going on in her life. So, my tribe, my village is so amazing. Even when you saw at the launch party, like my girlfriends came in.
Yeah, they showed up,
did my decorations for me. And so it's being willing to say, I need help.
That's a big lesson.
That is probably my biggest one, is that it's okay to say I need help and not be ashamed to receive it.
Because it feels that way sometimes, that by asking for help, we're admitting that we can't do it on our own. And that doesn't necessarily feel good. But then it feels so good when you have people show up for you.
Right. But to your point, admitting that you can't do it is not a weakness.
It's not a weakness.
Especially if you figured out by you helping to do this, I can accomplish more.
Right.
And so I think that's the thing, as women, we are often so afraid to take down our superwoman capes and recognize the fact that it's okay when you don't know that you can do it or you can handle it. Right? It's okay to say, I need some help. Or, if you kind of maybe do this for me, that will reduce some of my burden of what I'm trying to do with my business.
Where do we get that from?
I don't know. And I would say, particularly for Black women, that's something that, our mothers and our grandmothers have just kind of, say, you always got to be 10 times better this and all this other stuff. And so with that mentality, it doesn't allow us to have vulnerability.
You're right.
And so that's one of the things when you think about, if I could tell a girl or someone growing up now, it's okay not to be Superwoman.
Right.
It is fine not to be Superwoman. It's better for you to understand what your limitations are and to be able to work through them versus trying to mask that and not be realistic on what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So for every girl or woman who needs to know this, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to say, I need help. It's okay, because when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, then a lot of times people don't always see you as that superhero. And so what happens so often is that when you have always been that person, no matter what, to be able to accomplish things, handle things, then people say, well, I thought you had it.
Because you always had it.
You've always had it. And so even when one of the lessons that I also learned was that even if I ask people for help, don't expect them to give me the help. And don't be disappointed if they don't do it, because sometimes in my mind, and I know sometimes maybe people have often felt that as well, is that if you're that strong person who always gets it done, when I come to you and say I need help, it's a big deal. So I'm expecting you to say, okay.
Right.
But I don't know what they have going on in their lives.
Right.
I don't know anything else. And so I had to learn that it's okay if someone says no.
And I wonder, that's part of the reason. I bet it's so entangled, but I wonder that's part of the reason back of our heads and why we don't ask for help. What if they say no?
Right.
And so all of those things that we could be going through.
Right. And so again, if they say no, you don't know where they are in their lives.
Right.
And so don't hold that against them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you move on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at the end of the day, whatever it was that you needed help, you still need help.
Right.
And so
Right.
let's just deal with that problem and
Right.
keep it moving.
And keep it moving.
So I think when it comes to women and being entrepreneurs, you know, it is just being able to say, I need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I've kind of whittled away from saying I could do all things.
Yes.
And so I've started outsourcing. So I read a book and it was like how we should all be millionaires.
It's a great book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she also encouraged was to do boss moves.
That's right.
Right. And so again, if you are so inundated with some of the things that you can outsource for your business, and you can figure out and adjust money and time, then do it, right?
So what things have you outsourced?
So I started, you know, working in terms of my increasing my followers, doing some of my things in terms of my graphic stuff.
Yeah.
I'm working, you know, doing some more with the influencers and things like that. And so it's been little things where I've just said, okay, let go.
That is so true, because when we first started working together, you were trying to do all your graphics. Yeah, I can do this. I can do that. I used to do this. I can do this.
Right.
And you're right. Most recently for your launch, you had someone else do your graphics for you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so I've been learning how to let go in order for me to focus on increasing revenue.
Yeah.
So what that's the other piece is, don't be hurt when you don't do online sales.
Yeah, your sales cannot define you.
Right. But then what I realized is that, you know, I needed to go to the people. Right. And so I started doing more events. Right. And so, you know, I had to pivot in terms of how I'm doing my different streams of getting the revenue and getting people engaged and involved.
Right.
So even with that, if you said, you know, your question about what would I change or anything like that, you know, it is understanding and being willing to have flexibility.
Those are so many great points. You are exactly right, because so many times we're like, I'm going to do it that's how she did it. I'm going to do it. That's how I started doing it. That's how I'm going to do it.
Right.
Even if it's not working, you're just beating a dead horse, right?
Or,
I hate that saying.
Or the fact that you may feel like what I'm doing is not going to do well because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
And so it's not feeling that way. It's how you push and present your service or product to the people who need it, because you may introduce it to a whole segment of people that may not have even used it, right? Or it's just different things where sometimes people may say, well, you know, skincare is $1 billion industry, right? What makes you think you were going to do anything with that, right? And it's just a matter of not giving up, making sure you do things in terms of having quality products, making sure you believe in making sure you do things in terms of customer service, right? And make sure that you do things in terms of moving forward with whatever it is, you know, having that vision, having that plan, working to the plan, but having the ability and the willingness to have the pivot and have flexibility. Because, you know, think about everyone who dealt with COVID, right? COVID was for many people a blessing in terms of being entrepreneurs. And then for some people, it was a travesty in terms of loss of business. But it took people the ability to pivot with the face of adversity, right? And so understanding how do you have that flexibility, and sometimes right at that pit point, you may not make money, But as you're pivoting and making those adjustments,
Yeah.
that will help you in terms of your revenue.
Yeah.
And so being on top of what's happening, that's the
Mhm.
other thing. We got all issues with supply chains and everything else. So you got to stay on top of it. And that's why it's also important to let certain things go for other people. I admit it. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Fantastic lessons. Thank you so much for your time today. Before we let you go, let's see some of your fantastic products that you brought with us.
Okay, so I brought some products.
So excited.
So this is my, Oktoberfest event, right? So this is my Warrior Queen.
Let's open it up. It smells so good. I used it yesterday.
You did? Now
I
this
did.
one.
So good.
And this is my sugar scrub. So
Amazing.
you see how pink it is?
Amazing. This is the body butter.
That's
is that
the
right?
body butter.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Whipped goodness
Whipped
right there.
Did you see that?
Love it.
Love it.
And then you have the body oil.
This is the body oil. This is the body
I love the packaging too.
And so I try to make sure in terms of packaging sometimes, and I'm grateful that I kept to my true form in terms of being simplistic but sophisticated. Sometimes less is more. Yeah. Right. And so, just focused on the brand. And so let me talk about the brand.
Please.
Okay, let me talk about the brand. That's one of the things I want to talk about.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can see it. So yeah, that's the brand.
There we go.
There
Beautiful.
We go. Right. So the brand, everything I try to do has purpose in me. Right. So the brand, like I said, NEMA is named after my mother. But as you see, it has a circle right there, and then it has the N and the star. And so I always try to make sure in terms of I have the circle in terms of blessings in my community and everyone supporting me there. And then the star is like my blessings and remembering and being my guidepost.
I didn't know that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I don't, when I try to do things, I try to have meaning behind everything that I do and be intentional about it. And whatever way I can give honor and show that love and support for those people who did everything for me to get to this point. Yeah. I always try to do that.
That's beautiful.
Okay. So lavender. So lavender is one of my favorite ones. That's one of my best sellers. Lavender is one of my best sellers.
Oh my goodness.
She always does that.
Every time.
It's like
the first time.
So that's and so I have the sugar scrub with
how beautiful is that?
That's you can't see it, but it's really a beautiful
lavender
color. And then I have the butter, body butter with it.
So good.
So here you go.
Oh my goodness. Every time.
And then I have my other one, which is my eucalyptus essence. And so it's you go ahead.
I have to every time.
Every time. So it is a
this
combination.
Is so good.
It's a combination of eucalyptus and peppermint. And so it is just I love it because, I make sure to use organic products. Because all of those things, when you sit back and think about your body is the largest organ, and what you do and how you take care of it is so important. So, internally, you need to do all the things like drinking water and everything else, but it's also making sure we're getting in the fall, right? And so butters better.
That moisture.
Butters are better.
Seal it in.
Seal all that stuff in, right? And so you want to make sure in terms of like your feet.
Yes. Super important.
All of that stuff. So that's why, I have like my lavender and eucalyptus. And so this is the eucalyptus. Ooh,
so good. So good. And what I do is I layer the oil and the butter on top. So good.
So I absolutely love it. So, those are, and then I didn't bring it, even though you.
Which one? The coffee?
No, the clary sage and lemongrass.
Lemongrass,
and
yes,
so
that's so good.
That was one of my inspirations from, if you ever been to the W Hotel, that kind of white tea smell.
Yes,
I love it.
So good.
Love it. So again, the other piece is start. You don't have to have 1,000 things,
Right,
right?
right.
Because you can have 1,000 things that aren't quality, where if you had something that was of a quality product, that could go longer and
Yep.
further for you. So, you have to be mindful. You don't have to have 1,000 things in your
Right.
storefront, right?
So what I'm hearing from you as we wrap it up
Yes.
is to start small.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to start small.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to be flexible.
Nope.
And don't be afraid to not be perfect.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Yes,
You
those are some
said it.
great lessons. Thank you so
said
much,
it.
Ms. Beverly. Where can we find these great products and where can we find you?
So on Instagram, it's at NEMA, NEEMA Skin. And then my website is www.nemaskincare.com.
Amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you, hugs and kisses. Oh, yes. And thank you for listening to us. I appreciate it. And so this woman is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm not going to not let her have her roses in terms of who she is and the value that she provides. So, when you think of people in terms of coaching and being there for people, you want someone who's going to be honest with you. You want someone that's going to make sure in terms of the goal that both of you want to accomplish, that you have someone who's willing to do it, and you are it.
Thank you.
And so I just want to make sure that you do get your recognition for what you do so well.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Leaf Nose. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment below and let us know what your takeaway was. Or if you're listening, take a screenshot, post on social media with your takeaway. This will help us reach more small business owners just like yourself. If you would like to leave us a review, head over to your favorite podcast app and drop that 5-star rating. Your feedback helps others find our show. And until next time, we hope your business takes root and grows.